River's Edge Art Walk. Creativity at the confluence. We'll have details next on City Corner. I'm Steve Potter, and welcome to City Corner. The Audubon Center at Riverlands is on the Mississippi River in West Alton, Missouri, and the just newly opened Art Walk, Riverlands Art Walk, has just opened. And here to tell us more, please welcome the Executive Director of the Audubon Center, that's Ken Buchholz, and here with us is artist Libby Reuter. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
And congratulations. I was at the, I don't know if you call it the grand opening or the launch party for the Art Walk last weekend, and it's really incredible. Ken, how do you feel about it?
I thought it was quite spectacular. It was a vision of Penny Schmidt, who's on our advisory board, but also Penny's a real creative mind in the Alton area and beyond, really, and she put together a spectacular idea, and she brought together some very talented creative artists and really brought something very unique to our region.
I've known Penny Schmidt for a long time, and I call her my pretend agent. You can ask her about that later. But yeah, she does a lot around in the community. And Libby, as an artist, how were you approached by Penny Schmidt, and what was it like to work with her, and how was that?
Well, this is actually the second exhibit that Penny has curated. We in this area are really lucky to have her for a number of years, maybe 16. She directed a gallery in New York, as you probably know, and working with contemporary artists. So here in what we call the Riverbend area, she has been instrumental in working with the Jacoby Art Center and now this exhibit. So that's how I knew her, was through an exhibit she organized at the Jacoby, and working with her through that. And then she approached me and said, "Hey, I got this idea. It could be like an outdoor exhibit," and it was fun to watch the idea grow and artists being added, and the idea of art in the environment, art to mark the river.
I want Ken to pick up on that because we haven't really made clear what the Audubon Center is for those that don't know. In West Alton, Missouri, it's directly across the river from Alton, Illinois, across the Clark Bridge there. And it's an incredible building on floodplain, and it's a bird sanctuary. Can you give me the little pitch on that?
Sure. We're one of 41 Audubon centers in the country, so we're rare and unique, and we're also in an area that's rare and unique. And the flyway in St. Louis, where we're working to protect habitat, is one of the largest flyways. The Mississippi Flyway is one of the largest flyways on the planet. So that's why we're there. And the center itself was opened in 2011, and it's a place that we gather, convene, and work on behalf of floodplain habitat, birds, and the people of our region.
We're going to take a look at a video in just a couple of seconds that kind of gives us an idea of what's happening there. So what Penny Schmidt's idea was, Ken, was to install outdoor art pieces at the Audubon Center, and this is just up to the end of December. And were you open to this idea first?
Well, we've always been open to the idea that art can be a tool to connect people to the importance of this habitat and to become inspired to help protect it. Penny's visions we've always trusted, and you know, with an art exhibit, it's really the curators, sort of like the orchestra leader. It's their vision, and she did a great job of pulling everyone around it. So what happens
if you go to the Audubon Center, then you can take this art walk, and it's a walk outside, and there's all different types of art that's displayed. And we have a video. Why don't we take a look at that?
Sure.
And I want to give credit to the gentleman that shot the video.
Rick Vaughn.
Rick Vaughn, right. And he was there at opening night where I was. And here's one of, that's yours, isn't it, Libby? That piece of glass there, which we'll talk about later. So this is a video. So while we're watching this, if you would both just comment on what we're seeing.
Well, I think one of the things that makes this especially interesting, and you can see it here in Ann Coddington's piece, is that these are mostly natural materials from the environment. It's kind of counter to the idea that art has to be inside in a white box and made out of valuables.
And this is your stuff here.
And this is me setting up the large confluence cairn.
And so this is the area all around the Audubon Center, right in the floodplain, and it's just a beautiful setting, isn't it?
Right, and these pieces were lit at night, the opening that you're speaking about. But here, Danny Race's piece, it's wood that you might find from a tree that's fallen in your backyard, and the fabric. Right now, there we're looking at the fabric.
In fact, I want to say that Danny the artist here, and Ken are going to be on my radio show in Alton.
Oh, great.
It's the Steve Potter Show, so look it up, but go ahead.
Yeah, so the fabric that you see there moving in the wind was dyed with rusty metal. So most of the things are objects like that tree. Here, Son Smith Foray's piece, the twigs, the branches are used. Here's one of the trees on the Audubon property lit.
Yeah, I like it even better at night. The way it's lit up, it's really something.
It was quite a challenge because you think you're competing with nature.
Right.
And so this artist really stepped up to the plate and created something very unusual.
And maybe we should say something about how Principia is involved with all this.
Well, so Principia...
Principia College and Elsa.
Principia College and Elsa. Penny had contacts there. We work with Principia in a number of ways as well. And this is their art studio. And they had a number of students that helped on this, so it was very collaborative.
Mm-hmm. And do you know all the artists? Do you know them all personally?
Well, I do now. Son Smith Foray is a dear friend of mine, going back a long time. So we've worked on various projects together.
Libby, we got a couple shots of you, I think, and your glass work that we want to take a look at.
Okay.
And maybe you can comment on that if they come up. And if not, we have some sitting right here next to us. There we go.
Yes, yes. So these are some pieces that were installed inside the art center. I work with a collaborator, Joshua Rowan, who's a photographer, and I build these, what I call cairns, C-A-I-R-N-S, and that's a term for stacks of rocks that hikers will leave on a trail. Mm-hmm. But instead of stacks of rock, I make them out of stacks of glass.
Let's look at the next one.
And here, this is one of the large ones. This is installed outside.
And just to give people perspective, behind you, but if you're looking at what we're looking at, behind us would be the Audubon Center, and in the distance is the Mississippi River.
Correct.
And that's Alton, Illinois on the other side.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
How long does it take you to do a piece like that, Libby?
Well, it really depends.
Tell me about what you brought here.
So I brought a small sample so you can kind of see. A lot of times there are two questions that people will ask about this project, which we're trying to do to mark the fact that the land, all the land around here is a watershed. The water sheds into the Mississippi, Missouri rivers. So I use glass that I find in local flea markets, antique malls, yard sales to assemble these. So,
You mean this might have been a wine glass upside down or something?
Yeah, this giant margarita glass here. And a small vase upended. So by assembling them into one unit that is kind of a marker, a pinpoint to draw attention to. And they're fragile. This one broke on the way over here. I think you can see where it came off.
Oh, it was in here maybe?
No, it's,
On top?
yeah.
Here, let me do that for you.
Yeah, please.
So it was like that.
Yes, it had been. And one curve too many on the drive.
Well,
here.
aren't you worried about, Libby, about having your glass art outdoors? I mean, you've seen how big the hawks are around there.
Well, usually they're only outdoors temporarily, like you saw at the opening event, long enough for the photographs. And the photographs are on display at the Audubon Center as well.
Right, and so Libby has other pieces inside right now.
And Libby, are you the one doing the art walk? Someone's taking people around here, coming up and soon,
Oh,
right?
well, we're having different programs on Saturday.
So it's an ongoing thing. Ken, would you explain that?
Yeah, so on various Saturdays, artists will be at the center talking about their pieces and talking about their work and helping others see some of their interpretation. And those are all posted on our Facebook page and website.
So how many artists are there in total, and how many artworks are there, and how long, this is just a guess, but how long does it take to experience the whole thing?
There are 5 artists, not including the Principia Art Studio. I would say there are more than 12 pieces, and you can walk inside and outside, and you should, to experience them all. When you even come up to the center and walk in our front door, you'll see a piece by Ann Coddington to kind of open up the exhibit. And then it's a beautiful walk, as you saw earlier, along the paths through the sanctuary. I would say you can, if you were going to take your time and really contemplate and reflect, a half an hour or more. If you were in a hurry, you could probably see them all in, 15 minutes.
Libby, tell me a little bit about yourself when you're not at the Audubon Center. Where are you? What do you do?
Well, I have a studio in the basement of my house in Alton where I create these things. And then Joshua Rowan and I have this project to document the watershed. So last summer, for example, we went to the Centennial Mountains where the Missouri River begins, and we created and photographed cairns. I think there were 80 of them, or 90, between that and the confluence. And then this piece that you see on the poster and that you saw me making at the Audubon Center, we photographed at the confluence. And those 3 of those views are in the conference room, the education room at the Audubon Center.
Ken, to wrap things up, would you just kind of state the purpose of this, what we're trying to make people experience, and then how long it will be up, and how to find out more information about it?
So we want people to come out and see the artwork and begin to develop some understanding and appreciation of how important these watersheds, as Libby just said, they are to our region and to the health of our birds and people. The exhibit runs through the end of December, and you can look at our Facebook page and our website and find all the dates and times.
The Audubon
artists.
Center at Riverlands.
Yep.
That's the way to look it up.
Yep,
Right.
correct.
Well, I think it's really exciting. Anything you want to say?
Well, I just want to tell people that it's an easy walk in the sidewalks. It's all on sidewalks, so people.
Handicap accessible, would that be a good point
The
tonight?
center is very accessible all the way through.
Right, and there's a warm and beautiful place to go inside and watch the birds. And what birds?
Well, I would
they
say
see?
it's a great time to come up and start to see overwintering trumpeter swans. There are about 500 in now.
They're just showing up, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and then wintering eagles are on their way.
Well, Ken Buchholz, Libby Reuter, thank you so much for sharing with us. We're going to have more with some more folks when we come back from the break here. But it's a great addition to the art scene in the metro area. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank-
All right.
Thanks.
We'll be back with more on City Corner right after this. So just sit here for a minute. Tell you.
Oh, you got it. Since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
I'm Steve Potter, and welcome back to City Corner. We're talking about the River's Edge Art Walk, which is part of the Audubon Center in West Alton, Missouri, and I'd like to introduce you to our next guest. To my right is Michelle Wigland. She is the education manager at Riverlands, and Duncan Martin is here too. He's a professor of art at Principia College in Elsa. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get into this, just off the top of your head, this thing just opened. What is your initial impression of what's happening there? Michelle?
Well, it's striking. It's really beautiful, and I think one thing that I find really exciting is that I work with student groups a lot when they come out to the center, and we always ask them how they can take action for the environment. We know that not all of them are going to become wildlife biologists or conservationists, but some of them might communicate their passion for the environment through art, and this gives them a way to see that connection and see that possibility.
So. And Duncan, tell me what you do at Principia. You're a professor of art, as you said.
Right.
How did this initial idea come about, and where do you fit in?
Well, I teach in the art department. I teach both foundational and painting and drawing. So it's unusual to be doing sculpture. I collaborated with Danny Reza, who's one of the artists, to do this with my foundational class. And we concocted the idea, partly influenced by Penny Schmidt, who's an alumni and good friend, and came up with this idea that maybe we could introduce what it's like to make art that is not made of paint or drawing, and in an environment, in a space that.
And what's the really message connecting art and the migration of birds and nature and all that? What's the tie-in?
It's a pretty interesting idea. The students picked up on that right away. The whole idea that we're not separate from the earth, we're part of it, and that the work that we do is some kind of response to that. And so I think part of what we're doing there is to show something that you wouldn't normally think of seeing at a place like a migratory bird center, and connect it with that. So.
Mm-hmm. And Michelle, what was your initial impression? Because I think that the artwork is meant to be there. Mm-hmm. Did you ever think of art as part of the Audubon Center as an employee there? And what was your first impression when you heard this idea?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely have always thought of art being a wonderful part of the center. We do have rotating art exhibits. Every 2 months we have a volunteer who curates different pieces that go up in the center, and so it's been a natural connection, I think, having the sculpture exhibit there as well. And so I think that this just brought that to a new level, and it's really exciting.
Well, this art walk at the Audubon Center is going to be up through the end of December. We have 3 images now that I would like to take a look at, and I think this has to do with your students at Principia.
Oh yeah, there we are.
Would that be they?
That's our piece. All right. The arts and what's in front of you is meant to symbolize the river. There's a bird in it, and there's some waves along the edges that symbolize the river and movement. And then there's a bird actually in the midst of it. You can see that.
And this is all like found driftwood,
it's all
right?
Driftwood from along the Mississippi. There's a lot of it. They collected it, and we brought it in truckloads, and they each group kind of designed a particular aspect of it and put it together. Yeah, this is particularly interesting because of the light hitting the sticks in different ways made the image stand out. That's based on Andy Goldsworthy's ideas.
Michelle, were you involved in the installation process at all, or did you just watch out the window?
I was not involved in the installation process, but I did watch from the sidelines, and I got to meet Duncan's students when they were installing, and that was really, really great to see their enthusiasm.
Well, since you work there and it's been open for a little bit now, what kind of reaction are you getting from people that walk through the door?
People are loving it. I mean, they're asking lots of questions. They want to know more about the artist. They want to know, where to go and what to see. So we've gotten a lot of positive feedback.
We have 3 images from another artist who's featured in the art walk at Riverlands, and Duncan, maybe you can tell. This is an artist by the name of Sun.
Sun, and she's been working with this whole idea.
And her full name is?
Sun Smith-Foray.
Sun Smith-Foray, right. Tell me about her.
She's been working with, I think, the idea of nests and different kinds of totems, and relating to some other types of work made in the rest of the world. And it's very intimate. This is a very different kind of experience. You have to look more closely. There are beads and things woven into it. So it's it's something that requires closer inspection. They're kind of hidden in the trees. It's quite wonderful.
It really fits in there, doesn't it? I like it how the artwork varies so much. Something like this, it almost looks like it was born there. And then you have things like Libby's glasswork that obviously was brought in, and somehow they all complement one another beautifully.
Nice
Right?
contrast. Yeah, right.
Didn't you have some sort of competition or something in Principia? I know the students worked on a lot of things. From what I understand, they had a lot of different ideas and it sort of narrowed down. It was sort of like
Yeah,
a
it was
group effort, wasn't it?
It's quite an interesting experience to do it and within 2 weeks come up with an idea and then actually complete it. They came up with ideas, they got together in groups, they presented 3 or 4 ideas, and we ended up actually blending all 3 or 4 of them together into the piece. So it was a great experience for them. Really.
We have 3 more images from another artist. Tell me who this artist is.
This is Ann Coddington's work, and I just got to know her a little bit. She teaches at Eastern Illinois University, and they're these woven basket nest-like things that are made from natural materials, which she obviously made on site, brought the form in and used materials from what was there in the riverlands.
Michelle, it had to be interesting for you working there, watching this, seeing the artists come and go and create their things over a certain period of time. What was that like?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, specifically even Ann Coddington's piece, that big, large piece that you just showed, she came in and she had part of it constructed, and she and her partner then actually we got to see it evolve over the course of the day, and they used grasses from on site, and it was really beautiful.
Let's look at one more artist we have, and this was, you mentioned her before, Danny.
Danny, she's one of my colleagues at the college, and this is quite interesting. It's all about the endangered species of birds, and each one of them is quite something you have to look up close at to see, but she used natural materials, stained the cloth, and then there are these inscriptions of every single name of all the endangered species in each of these areas. So you can see in little more intimate objects that are woven into it. So it's
Did somebody have the final say for all these artists, like, yes, you can do that, no, you can't? How did that work?
I think it was pretty open, wasn't it? I don't think there was any jurying of it. It was just a trust that this idea was going to unfold the way that it did. It's amazing the way it came together.
Michelle, you're the education manager at the Audubon Center. Just give me a general idea of what else you do and what kind of programs you have through the year and that sort of thing.
So we talk about our education program, our main student programs under the name Audubon Nest, which stands for Nature Education for Stewards of Tomorrow. And so those programs are all about building connections, whether it's building off classroom curriculum, and when students come out to our center, they're building off what they're learning in the classroom, but it's also about building those connections with nature. Because if we want them to be stewards for our environment in the future, they need to first have that connection. So we do school programs at our site where they might do netting for macroinvertebrates and learn about macroinvertebrates in our environment. They can do bird hikes where they learn about bird species that migrate through our region. And we also do a lot of outreach in the schools. We work with a summer camp through Ferguson Florissant School District. And we have events throughout the year as well.
Yeah, I want you to mention kind of you talk about school children and things. A lot of people in the metro area might think, oh, that's so far away, up on the northern edge by Alton. But you appeal to everyone in the St. Louis metro region, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We work with schools throughout the St. Louis region and over into Illinois as well. That's kind of the nice thing about our location is that we do work with schools in St. Louis and Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Well, Duncan, why don't you tell us a little bit about Principia College? How long have you been there? And it's a beautiful old campus on the bluffs of the Mississippi.
Right.
People haven't been there; they should.
It's right
check
above
it
the
out.
Mississippi, and it's in just above Elsa, Illinois. It's been there since the early 1900s. A magnificent location between the two confluences of the river. It's a school for Christian Scientists primarily, and it has a very strong art department. There are 5 faculty in the art department, so we have a strong reputation there. So it's great to be able to contribute something in the area because we exists there. We know it well.
But what do you think your students got out of being involved in this project?
I think one, they learned, I think what is possible, what they could possibly do as a group of people focusing energy, because it was a remarkable installation. Within a few hours, they had built this whole massive structure, and also an understanding that art can be something other than just traditional painting and drawing.
Michelle, now this exhibition is only going to be up until the end of the year, December. So what would you like to tell our audience about how they could learn more about the Audubon Center and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'd say definitely come out for some of those artist walks on Saturdays in November and December. We also have Swans of Riverlands event coming up December 15th, all day from 8 to 5. And that's a chance to come out and actually view the overwintering trumpeter swans in our area, learn about their conservation story, and do some educational activities. We also have Eagle Ice Fest January 5th, which is always a really wonderful event as well that we do in collaboration with Alton Visitor Center.
And Duncan, sort of to wrap things up, what are you going to do next? What's the next big art project? Do you have one?
We don't have one. I mean, we're just doing great work in our different classes. So we don't have any major. Although we've been invited to do the miniature golf at the Sheldon, so we may consider doing that.
Oh, really? They have
met some
a
people
exhibition up at Sheldon right now. I know that because I did a piece on it, where you can actually go in and play miniature golf in the art gallery.
Right. They've asked us if we might think about contributing. So.
Well, if you can have glass art at the Audubon Center, why not play golf in an art gallery?
Oh, that's right.
It kind of all makes sense. We brought this point earlier, it may have been in the first segment, but the uniqueness of combining art and nature and I can't think of the right word now, but
Conservation.
yes, thank you. I'll try to spit it out. Any final words?
I think what I think is great is that it is the Army Corps of Engineers, it's Audubon, and this amazing natural environment, and then the art is now entered into.
Well, Duncan,
Great
Michelle,
blending.
thank you so much for being here. Do you happen to the end of the year to see this? I hope people do. It's a wonderful experience. It's the Water's Edge Art Walk through December the 31st at the Audubon Center at Riverlands in West Alton, Missouri. Go to riverlands.audubon.org for more information. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Potter. Thank you for watching this edition of City Corner, and I hope you join me next time. Bye.